Hello, welcome back to our coverage from AWS reInvent 2018. We're live from the SANS Expo in Las Vegas, Nevada at the Amazon Web Services Global User Education Conference. And for this next segment, we're going to be diving into one or more of the services that were announced in this morning's keynote. With GM from part of the AWS business, Wayne. Wayne, can you just quickly introduce yourself to our viewers and explain what your role is here?
So sure, thank you, Ian. So my name is Wayne Duso, and I am the head of AWS File Services, Hybrid Storage, and Data Transfer.
Awesome. And on the end of the desk, we've got Randall Hunt from the AWS Developer Evangelism team. If you've got questions on the stream while we're broadcasting today, just send those over to us in Twitch chat, and Randall will be your proxy here on the stage and put your questions to our expert guests. So you had a lot of announcements this week, Wayne. Do you want to, first of all, just quickly talk us through everything that your team have been working on to announce here at reInvent, and then we'll dive into a few of the details.
Be happy to. We've had an amazing reInvent. It's been very exciting, and the teams have been doing a great job to get us here this week to deliver some tremendous value to customers. So we've had 4 service announcements this week, and we pre-announced a new storage class for Amazon Elastic File System called Infrequent Access Storage Class.
Yep.
So today on stage, Andy announced a brand new family of file services called Amazon FSx. And there are 2 members of that family that we announced today, FSx for Windows File Server and FSx for Lustre. And earlier this week, we announced 2 brand new data transfer services. One of them is called AWS Data Sync, and the other is called AWS Transfer for SFTP.
Wow, so there's a lot of stuff to unpack there, and we've only got 20 minutes to do this. So bear in mind as well that many of our viewers on the stream are kind of new to AWS and new to a lot of these terms. So let's dig into EFS first of all. I think we should start at the ground floor. So what is EFS? How do customers use it, and what is this enhancement that you've announced or pre-announced this week?
Sure thing. So EFS is, we launched EFS in 2016, and it is an elastic file system for EC2 instances as well as on-prem compute instances. And it is a simple, elastic, scalable file system for Linux workloads. Okay, so in what sort of use cases might a customer want to make use of a service like that? So if customers have file-based applications that they have either on-prem or in cloud, and those applications run on Linux platforms, EFS is a general purpose file system that within a couple of clicks, they can have a petabyte scale file system that elastically grows and shrinks based on their needs, can scale up to 500,000 IOPS, and can scale to petabytes of storage and tens of gigabytes of throughput.
Awesome.
And right before reInvent, you guys launched the ability to scale the IOPS independently of the storage, right?
We did, that's a great point. So before reInvent, somewhere I think in August, we announced a brand new capability called Provision Throughput, which allows customers to scale their throughput independent of their capacity based on the ratios their applications need.
Great, and you mentioned a pre-announcement of a new feature on this service, a new storage class. So maybe you can describe what a storage class is, talk a little bit about the use case that's intended for this particular storage class, and maybe some of the other characteristics of this enhancement as well.
Absolutely. So to break it down in the most simple terms, so that's really digestible, is that when EFS first came out, the EFS standard storage class operates on SSDs. So it's a super high performance storage class for applications that require that level of capability. And what we announced, pre-announced this week is a new storage class for infrequently accessed files. And what we've been, in our conversations with customers, what we've been told is, we really love EFS, and it really meets a lot of our needs, but file storage often ages out over time. It gets less frequently used. And they would like to have the ability to store even more data on EFS, but they would like to be able to do it at a lower cost. So we came out with EFS IA, infrequently accessed, which saves customers up to 85% of what standard costs today, and we did pre-announce pricing. EFS IA is 4.5 cents per gig per month. And that's in comparison to standard class, which is 30 cents per gig per month.
Okay, and customers just provision an EFS IA volume or share?
Even
and then
easier,
mount that?
even easier than that.
Okay.
So customers will create a file system, and they will simply check a box to say that they would like data that's infrequently accessed to be put into this infrequently accessed tier, if you
Yep.
would, and we will automatically lifecycle manage data that's older than 30 days, that is data that has not been accessed in 30 days, down into the IA tier, but it all lives under one namespace,
Okay.
so their applications never need to worry about what lives where.
So it's transparent to the customer,
totally
and they just benefit
transparent.
from the cost reduction.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Can you turn this on existing EFS systems?
So at launch, you cannot turn it on existing file systems, but you can create a new file system, and you can move data to that file system in order to take
And
advantage
then you
of the
can just
feature.
mount multiple volumes.
Absolutely.
That's really cool. One of the things that I love about AWS, and I've repeated this several times throughout the Twitch stream this week, is the underlying systems continue to improve, and one day you wake up and the bill that you were paying, I don't know, $200 a month for previously is suddenly, $65 a month. And you're like, oh, what happened? Did something go down? And you go and you look and you find out, no, they just made it cheaper. I've experienced this as a customer a few times.
I long for the day that Randall's AWS bill is only $65 a month, by the way.
Ian is my boss, and he has to pay my AWS bill.
So let's move away from EFS for a second and talk about these FSx services. Fix my mouth. What is that in generic terms? You described it as a class of services, a new class of services. So what is the generic class of services that we're creating here?
Yeah, so to pick up on what Andy spoke about this morning at his talk, is there's a lot of different file system workloads out there today, and file systems have been around for a very long time for a good reason. They work, they're very useful. But not every file system can do the same as some other file system, and what customers have come and told us is, though we love what you have for EFS and our Linux workloads, we really do need file systems that our applications have been written for a long time. One of those platforms, for instance, is Windows. A lot of applications are written specifically for the Windows file system. And so what we did is we created a new class of service called Amazon FSx, and it's a family of services where we provide a fully managed experience for third-party, open source, or proprietary file systems based on what customers come and tell us they would like.
Okay.
And we announced 2 members of that family this week, FSx for Windows File Server and FSx for Lustre.
I'm sure a lot of the people on the stream are familiar with Windows Server, probably got Windows laptops or PCs at home. What is the primary intended use case for FSx for Windows Server, though? How do you envisage that customers will use that? I guess home directories is one obvious case, but there are other use cases as well.
Windows file systems and Windows in general has been used for decades for just about every application on the planet. And so file systems are at the very core of many of those applications, whether they're web serving or database serving or media serving, if you would. Really the range of applications run on Windows file systems. And so our customers now can appreciate all of that value in addition to what they do today on Windows, on AWS, with this new offering.
Great, and what's the getting started experience for that service?
It's very, very simple. There are 2 pricing dimensions. You enter the console or through the API, and by and large, you select how much storage you want, how much performance you want, and then you just go, and the file system is created for you, and from there on out, there isn't anything you need to do to worry about that file system. It's a fully managed experience. We take care of updates, we take care of patching, we take care of backups, the whole 9 yards.
Great. Okay, Lustre, I think, is a little bit more specialized, and probably our audience on the stream, a fair proportion of them will not be familiar with that.
Before we move on to Lustre, we actually have a quick question about the Windows file system, which is it SMB based, or do we need special drivers or anything like that?
That's a great question. It is SMB based. In fact, it supports back to Windows 2008 all the way up to current day. And there's nothing they need to do to their Windows instances in order to work with FSx for Windows.
Great. So I think that was Ministry FML. I hope that answers your question. And now we can move on to Lustre.
Yeah, Lustre. So Lustre's a little bit more specialized.
Yes.
A lot of our viewers are probably not heard of that, and it has one particular sweet spot in terms of use cases, right? So can you describe a little bit more about what Lustre is and in which particular fields of computing it's heavily used?
Yes, in fact, if we look at the entire suite of offerings we have today, when you look at EFX with Linux and FSX Windows for Windows, those really are meant to address most, if not all, business applications. Whether it's mission critical or business critical applications, that's what they're built for.
Yep.
However, there's a whole class of applications that are compute intensive, whether it's genomics or media rendering, any, if you would, traditional HPC, high performance computing application. Linux is a tremendous file system for, and has been for a long time. However, it is not simple to manage. Those folks that are in the HPC space will tell you that it often takes a full-time person to manage a Lustre cluster.
Yep.
I had to learn to use that at the Pleiades supercomputer at NASA Ames in Mountain View, California back in 2012, 11? Something like that. I might have made that number up, it might have been 2010. That was a steep learning curve.
And we want to take that steep learning curve and make that our issue and not our customers. So FSX for Lustre takes an open source version of Lustre and it turns it into a fully managed experience where it's very, very simple. You go into the console, you select the performance you want, and by and large, boom, it's done. You just start working. And we connected Lustre up to S3 so that customers can populate their Lustre file system with data from their S3 data lakes. So as whether they're re-platforming onto AWS or re-architecting using S3 data lakes,
yep,
they can use Lustre together with existing native services on AWS.
So how does that work under the covers? A customer targets an S3 bucket and that data automatically gets populated
under the
file
covers,
system.
it's very, very simple. When they create their Lustre file system, they point it to a bucket,
yep,
and then when that file system is created, we populate the metadata from the bucket. So if you did an LS, you'd see your entire file system. And as your application or human opened up a file, we will lazy load. That not so lazy, we'll go pretty
10
fast.
gig lazy,
We'll go pretty fast.
Or maybe more than
but
that.
we call it lazy loading. We load that file into the file system so you can begin processing it right away. And we also have a batch mode where if you want to batch load your entire file system from S3, you can do that as well. And when you're done with whatever rendering or processing that you have in that file system, using Lustre's HSM capability, you can write all of that data back out to your S3 bucket, and you can take the cluster down and not have to pay for it anymore.
Yep, and it's ready to go and be reestablished when you want to run that job
ready
again.
to go. So you can leave it up for days, you can leave it up for weeks or months.
Yep.
It's up to you.
Great.
So
Excellent.
we have a couple questions from the stream. I'm going to combine a few of these questions together. So David DR 7777 asked, does the storage across EFS automatically increase? And I'll also take another question that somebody asked, does the storage across FSX automatically increase? Could you answer both of those?
So the first one was, does the storage on EFS automatically increase?
Is it elastic?
It's fully elastic. So with EFS, you only pay for the bytes that you use. So when you start off, your file system is empty. As you create files, you create data, it will grow. As you delete it, it will shrink. You never have to worry about managing or provisioning or anything.
And David has a very, very quick question that I think you also answered, which is follow-up to the previous question. If the storage, does the storage have any downtime or performance issue when you scale, like
Great
up
question.
or down?
Great question. And no, it's a fully elastic offering. So
Answer I expected.
You can think of it this way. So EFS is a regional service. So all the data is actually persisted across 3 AZs before we even acknowledge back to the client that the data has been written. And that elasticity is completely transparent to both human and application alike.
Excellent. And is that true of FSX as well, or?
So FSX is a slightly different model. You actually pick the amount of storage that you want up front, but the ability to change that over time exists. So you can grow that capability over time.
Awesome. And so I have a question from a friend of ours, which is, we've got a few new VPC features that we've launched recently, and
yes.
A couple of our customers have been asking for VPC access to some of these features, and I was curious, do we have any updates there?
We do. That's actually a great question. And we're really happy to also announce at reInvent this year, we've launched the ability to support multiple VPCs with EFS. Up till today, in order to access an EFS file system, you could do that from one VPC. And today, what we've enabled is the ability to access that file system from multiple VPCs using all of the VPC capabilities that have been announced here at the show.
Great. We've not got a lot of time left. We've got just over 3 minutes left. So there's one other area that I wanted to dig into, which was an announcement from early this week, AWS Data Sync, which is also, I think, in your portfolio. Can you quickly recap that launch and explain to our viewers what AWS Data Sync is?
I can. Data Sync is a sister service to something that we've had for years, which is AWS Storage Gateway. And for years, people have been using AWS Storage Gateway as an on-prem or hybrid solution, storage solution for their needs as they're moving to AWS or building hybrid environments. Over the years, people have been using the Storage Gateway as a data transport service. So even though it has a local cache, and it's really meant to be a storage service, they've been using it to move data. So customers would come to us and say, can we have a service that takes advantage of all the knowledge you have about moving data into AWS and the various storage services and just make it a data transport? Because what we're doing as customers is we're using open source tools and we're coupling solutions together and we're managing those solutions, or we're required to go and get third-party software, and we really don't need all the capabilities that third-party software may have, even as wonderful as it is. So we've built Data Sync using all the knowledge that we've acquired over the last 5 years in terms of network protocols, parallelization of data movement, verification on both ends that data is secure, so you don't have to worry about it, and that it's a completely secure channel. So today or this week, we announced the service launch of AWS Data Sync. AWS Data Sync can move data at roughly 10 times what you can do with open source tools at a fraction of the cost.
So the usage case then is you've got a file system, maybe an NFS or Windows file system on your site. You deploy this device or appliance within your site, point that at a target in AWS, and it will take the data from that on-site file system and move it to AWS in an accelerated way. That's essentially what the service does.
That's correct. It's even simpler than that. You essentially, for the service, we will...
it's a virtual machine.
It's a virtual machine. We'll drop an agent into the environment. That agent will, we set up a sync pair, essentially, with a source and a sink, and you just say go. You can put timers on it, so it can happen from time to time, whatever that schedule happens to be, so you can run that plan or that policy. And also, after the first full sync, all syncs after that are incremental.
Okay, great.
So it's incremental in that you pay just the cost in the diff in terms of network bandwidth, but also bandwidth to that individual device that you've provisioned within your environment?
It's incremental in terms of we'll only copy those bits from your on-prem environment that have changed since your last sync. So it saves you money, but it also saves you a ton of time. And
does this have any sort of integration with the storage gateway set of services and things like that?
So when we launched this week, Data Sync is integrated with S3 and integrated with EFS. So you can sync to your
directly
S3 buckets
to EFS, wow.
directly to EFS or directly to S3, depending on what your needs are.
Great.
Okay, and we have a few questions from the Twitch stream that I'm just going to answer, and we've only got a few seconds left, so I'm going to try and get to these.
Rapid fire.
The inevitable compliance questions are EFS. What's the compliance situation with EFS and FSI?
So it's PCI, it is HIPAA eligible, and it is SOX, it is ISO. I might have missed one.
So
give me one that I might have missed.
JJAPI.
GDPR as well.
JJAPI, hopefully that answers your HIPAA question for you. And unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to get to the rest of the questions, but we have some talented moderators over here who are going to try and get to the rest of your questions.
Great stuff. Thanks for joining us on twitch.tv/AWS. Wayne, it's a
sir.
pleasure as always.
Wayne.
Thank you very much.
And we'll be back very soon with some more content for you. We'll see you soon from AWS reInvent. Bye-bye.
More announcements coming up.